Hey everybody, my name is Chuck Black. Welcome to my studio. Today we're going to be doing a night scene, kind of a northern lights, lots of stars, Milky Way. It's going to be a caribou silhouetted against the sky. It's going to be really cool. So I've got an 18 by 24 stretch canvas primed and ready to go. We're going to be using golden fluid acrylics, and I'm just going to use all sorts of different brushes and stuff. So I'm going to show you how I mix some of these colors and how I do some of these really cool Northern Lights stars effect. So let's get started. The first thing I got here is I got my palette, and I've got some Prussian blue, some carbon black, titanium white, just some primary yellow, and then of course I've got some kind of green here. Light green permanent is what it is. So first thing I'm going to start with is I'm just going to get some of this caribou and some of the silhouette where the land is going to lay. I don't want to lose that when I do the sky because I'm going to go right over it. So the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of figure out how I want this land to lay. And I've been kind of messing with a simple sketch here. So I've got a little bit lightly sketched out, but we're going to go in and outline this in black. And this is not any particular, what I'm trying to say, there's not a lot of detail I'm worried about. I'm just getting the sketch, and this does not have to be the final result, and we don't have to be stuck with this. But this is just something that I'll do before I do the background, because when I do a lot of the blending, it's really hard to go around the things that you have. So what I do is I start with this simple outline, and then I keep maintaining it as I work on the background, just so I don't lose it. So what I've got here is just something to start with, just so that when we're ready to work on it, we'll have it. So it's sometimes hard to draw over your paint. I don't like to do that very much. So I start with a simple sketch. I did this in pencil, just a really light sketch. Now I'm just going over it with black. Again, just like a sketch in paint. Alright. Got some antlers, big old caribou. Kind of a tedious set of antlers. Not being particular about anything that I'm doing here, I just want to get this outline going. It can be changed, it can be fixed. None of this we have to stick with, but it's a pretty good idea of what it'll be. A lot of my big detail paintings, if you watch the time-lapse videos, and I'd like to get some more content on some of those larger paintings I do, but I always start with just this simple sketch. I'll just sketch and paint, I'll cover it with white, I'll redo it. If I'm doing a cabin, this is kind of what I'll do. A lot of it's just on the go. Sometimes, in this case, I have kind of a sketch in pencil, pre-sketch, before I add the paint. So that's pretty much good enough for right now. Not going to worry about it. Wash my brush, and we're going to pull out some color. See, I've got a mop brush. This is a mop. I can't read actually what it is anymore. There's so much dried paint on it. But it's just a thicker brush, and it's kind of thin on one side, but then thick on the other. So we're going to start by adding some color. So there's going to be this is going to be mostly black, maybe a little bit of highlights, and then this is going to be like a Milky Way that comes up somewhere right here. So I'm going to start with just some white, and I'm just going to spread some white across there, and I'm mixing this with water just to get some white on there. Helps me mix it a lot easier. And I'm going to take some green, take some yellow, green and yellow, kind of a lime green, a little bit of white, really bright color, a little more yellow. And I think what we're going to do is I want some of the bright part to remain white, but I don't want a lot of white on here, so I'm going to go through kind of like this. So I'm trying to go around the highlights. You'll see as I get a little bit further what I'm trying to do here. And this is probably getting close to dry. I don't want to touch it quite yet. We're going to take some Prussian blue, mix that in with our green. And just going to keep going. This isn't going to be an exact representation of the Milky Way, obviously, but I really love how you do like a cool camera effect. So this is going to be a little bit surreal. It's going to be really neat. More Prussian blue and green. This is going to be a little bit darker. Yeah, that's probably a little better. But I want it to remain lighter down here. So I'm going to keep going with it. It's getting kind of dry on the brush, that's okay. Just to start here, I like to use my fingers if you've watched some videos in the past, but right now I'm just kind of, I like to use the brush sometimes. Depends what I'm working on. But the brush has a little more control when I'm at least laying out kind of the foundation for it. And let's add some darker blue up top. A lot of times as I'm doing this, I'm like, I got an idea of what I want, but maybe I don't know exactly. You can see me kind of hesitating. I'm hesitating a lot, actually. And so one way that I'll battle that is I'll just move on to a different part. Like, okay, I know this is going to be dark blue. I know this area is going to be dark blue. So let's just do that, and we'll come back to this, and we'll figure it out. Because oftentimes, if you don't know what the next step is, just go to somewhere else where you do know what the next step is. Take that next step, this dark blue, and oftentimes the next step for this area will come to you. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. No, this is going to be blue, so we're just going to go ahead and fill it in with blue. And I think that'll help me with the rest. And there's going to be some green, a little bit of white, a little bit of blue. We're going to start lightening it down through here. Because this is going to be a black silhouette, so we want to make sure that it kind of stands out against the background. Not a lot, but we want a little bit lighter. We don't want that dark blue to be down in here. And a little more green, a little more white. And we're going to add some more down here. You know, I'm just going to go right over, this should be all dry. Dries pretty quick. So we're going to go right over that, and we shouldn't lose it. And that's pretty opaque, so you might not be able to see the outline of the caribou underneath, but I can still see it. You may be able to see it through there. But the point is that as long as you can kind of maintain it, you can kind of see it, you just don't have to worry about it. You just work right over the top. And I've shown you this before, but just go right over the top. And I can still see everything that's going on underneath. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm take some blue, put some blue kind of down low. It'd be kind of cool. In a lot of this paint, you'll see me, I'm pushing pretty hard. I'm moving the brush. I don't keep the brush from, I keep the brush moving, and this paint, although it dries fast, you can blend with it surprisingly well once you get comfortable. So it has it has a workable time, even though it's short. You can still work it, and you may be able to see that outline, but I still can. But you can keep working this even now I could work almost any part of this. I can see a lot of this is still wet. You know, you rub your finger across it, there's still green on my finger. So a lot of people don't like acrylics because they dry so fast, but if you add some water and just kind of experiment, you'll figure out ways to make it work for you. And I do like oils. I've said before, I'll add oil sometimes after the acrylic is dried. Sometimes you just paint the whole thing in oil again. Just kind of depends on the painting, but acrylics really help me get a solid start. They're just so easy to work with. They dry so quickly, and that's actually an advantage in certain situations. So I'm gonna keep this going. All right. And it's gonna look pretty sloppy to begin here. I'm gonna take my finger, just kind of blend part of that. All right. So this is gonna be kind of cool. So there's gonna be some lighter areas around the outside, and then the inside is gonna be kind of dark, sort of like the Milky Way, like I said, but not an exact representation. Wash my fingers off. And I'm going to keep going with this. I'm going to speed it up, and then I'll slow it down. So I'm going to keep going with the brush. When I'm ready to start blending a little more at a fine scale, I'll slow it down again, and I'll talk about how I get some of these transitions. But I'm just going to keep going right now and fill it in with the paintbrush. Okay, so this is pretty much dry, and I've worked it mostly with the brush. I use my fingers for a couple things, but not too much. So I've switched to a scrumbler brush. It's just kind of a round, soft brush. It's just good for kind of some detailed blending, if you will. So I'm going to dip it in some water, and I got some water in the brush, and I'm going to probably doesn't matter where we start, but I'm going to start with some of the highlights here, and I'm going to need some more white. My palette's a little messy. I'm just going to take some white, get some clean white, and dip my brush in it. Nothing special. And I'm going to start by so a lot of this is pretty much how we want it to be, but it's very rough. So at this point, and there are changes that I'm going to make, but the biggest thing that I want to focus on right now is starting to smooth and blend some of these colors out. So take some white, I'm going to put some white through here, and the only like pure white that I want in this whole painting is probably going to be about right there. And the rest of it, I want to make this look like it's like a light source coming out. And the way that you make it very dramatic is pick and choose where your highlights are going to be. Where are the brightest highlights going to be? And if you put too many of them, it starts to take away from those highlights. But if you only have one, which is maybe just one area, pick an area, it's going to look so much better. And you can have highlights everywhere else too, but just don't make them quite as bright as your number one priority highlight, I guess, if you will. So let's take some white, and I'm going to take, this is called Light Blue Permanent, and it's kind of a, not iridescent, but very vibrant light blue. Mix it with white, and just kind of a neat, very bright, kind of a sky blue, but it'll work good for this side. So I'm going to fan out. I want some of these edges to be hard, but I'm going to start fanning it out with my finger And again, this is dry underneath. So I'm basically just, in that layer underneath, I put it on pretty thick. And it'll actually help me once that thick layer dries, the initial layer dries, and you start adding some of these colors over the top. It actually makes it, that thick dried layer of paint underneath makes it easier to blend. So, and I struggled with this a long time too. A lot of times I had a hard time blending colors, but then over time I realized that if you just put on, once you get so many layers of paint, the paint becomes thick enough and it actually blends over the top of that, over dried paint, very, very well, very easily. So if you ever have some problems with blending, just do your best with whatever current layer. If it's the first layer of paint you're doing it with a paintbrush, just do your best with that layer and then just walk away from it, let it dry, go back and actually just do the same thing right over the top, and you'd be amazed at the difference that dried layer of paint can make for you. So that's kind of what we're doing here. And I'm not going to be very particular again with some of this stuff. I'm just kind of working in certain areas. I'm just using my finger just to blend in circles. And if we ever switch, I've got some dark paint on my fingers now. I like to keep my fingers clean, but this is all kind of a similar color. So what I'll do actually, I'm gonna wash my brush, pull some of the water off there, and get some more of that blue, light blue permanent. I'm gonna mix that area in right here, kind of swirl it in circles, and just kind of blend it together. So we want we want everything to be relative to this will be the highlight, and then it's gonna be a little bit darker, a little bit darker, a little bit darker, still adding those highlights, but just not quite as dark. So, you just want to keep stepping that down, darker and darker. It's going to bring this, just totally bring it to life. So, I want some areas, take some light blue permanent. We're going to take some light blue permanent and primary yellow. It's kind of an iridescent green, kind of what we got in here. But we're going to start going through. And this area, of the Milky Way, I guess, it's kind of like, again, this is not going to be a perfect Milky Way, but this area is going to be, it's going to have some hard edges, so I'm not blending too much with my fingers. Some areas I will. I didn't like what I just did there, so I'm going to blend some of that. But so I'll use a lot of paintbrush for this area. When we get up into the sky here, up here, I'll take some blue, some light blue permanent, some of that Prussian blue that I have still, and see, we'll put like some right there, and then I'll use my finger for this area up here again. Really, so a lot of this area up here will be more finger. A lot of the area down through here will be more paintbrush. And so I'm gonna just keep going, just like this, just swirling my finger around and not doing anything, just a little paint. Try to match that color underneath and then blend it out with my finger. And as I keep putting on the same color, so I'm trying to match some of these colors, trying to match this color here, trying to match that color there, kind of blend it out. And it's really going to start to smooth things out. And it kind of seems, I don't know what you're going to call it, kind of seems like a double standard. Just to be painting the exact same thing over the same thing, but it actually will really start to smooth those transitions out. So it's all about layers, paint layer after layer. So I'm going to keep going with these layers of paint where I just kind of match some of that color and then blend it out with my finger, just kind of swirl it, circle motion with my brush, and then switch to my finger and just keep that blending out like that. And as we go, things will start to come together more, and we'll take some blue, some green, get some green color through here, go through the middle, just kind of matching some of those colors again. Take my finger, and you'll feel with your finger as it starts to dry, and I'll press harder as it starts to dry to keep that paint moving. But it starts out kind of some light pressure, so I'll take some green, put some green on there, kind of light pressure as the paint is wet and it's starting to dry, and I'll push a little harder, just kind of rub that in, and just kind of go all these different areas and just keep doing that. So starting to talk a lot, but I'm going to keep going. So I'm going to speed it up, and I'm just going to keep doing this. You'll see me just the whole way around. Little paint, blend it out with your finger. I'm just going to keep going. So I'll slow it down when we get to a next point where kind of switch up some techniques, and I'll show you what I do next. I've been basically going over this whole thing over and over again. I added some, this would have been quinacridone red and some white to create some pink and kind of blend it into some violet here. But, you know, I've just been going, hey, it's not perfect. I could work on this all day, but personally, I love it right now. So we're going to go with it. And, you know, as far as anything I've done in particular that I didn't go over, boy, I don't know. It's basically you go back and forth, go to the lights, go to the darks, go to the lights, back and forth, you know, and you get to a certain spot. When you're in an area, you know, you'll get to a certain spot and you'll go like, I don't really know what to do. I'll let it dry, go back over to the darks, work on that, go, I don't know what to do anymore, go back, this part is dried. So just kind of go back and forth. So now is the fun part. We're going to add some stars. And now you'll see I have a lot of paintings where I do some really cool stars, and there's no trick to it at all. The only trick is the tool that I use. I don't use a brush, so I'm gonna try to hold this up for you, but it's kind of a weird looking thing. You can kind of see it there. So all it is, it's a sewing needle, and it's actually a gum eraser right here, and then the bottom is just a piece of wood. So because I would just take a sewing needle, put it in my finger, dip it in paint, and just start adding stars, but it actually pokes into my finger. So I've got kind of a piece of wood on the bottom and then kind of a gum eraser. And so, you know, then I can just not hurt my finger, and then I'll clean it off. So what I've done here is I've mixed some light color, kind of some green, some medium blue. I've got pure white, kind of some medium green. So what we want to do is, you know, our darker stars are going to be blue, our lighter stars are going to be white. So we'll start off with this blue color, and I just take the sewing needle, I just dip it in, and I don't know if you can see that there, but as I keep going, you'll begin to see it. So I've got kind of a medium blue, so and then at some point, what you need to do is just take your rag, wipe it off, go right back to it, pick up some paint. This creates a perfect star, and when you think about it, stars are really hard to create with a paintbrush because you bend the paintbrush and your star becomes a big blob. This is not going to bend, obviously, so you can, you know, don't poke through the canvas, obviously. I've done that once. But you can go pretty quick, and it's really hard to screw them up. So now you should be able to see some of that start to pop up. And as I keep going, so I've got some blue, so this whole area is kind of blue in general. So I'm using our blue stars, and this area down here is kind of more of a green, so I've got some greenish color made up, and I'll add the green stars down here, and that kind of creates the effect of when you're looking through the Milky Way and it's kind of green, you're looking through this green area and it's making the stars appear green. You're looking through the blue area, it's making the stars appear blue. So it really kind of like brings it to life in a way when you match the color of the stars with what you've already got up here. So I just keep doing that. You can put them all over the place. It's really cool. You can go as far as you want. I have some paintings where I've put over I think one painting I had over 5,000 stars to my best estimate in the single painting. It's really cool. So you can, I mean, some of these stars, if you can get down, you get a really fine needle, you can create some really small stars. So I kind of do the green stars and then the blue stars, but then what kind of makes it pop is, of course, you got to have white stars, and you got to be selective. And I'm going to keep going with this, but I'm just kind of going through the process. So you see kind of some of these stars, if you take the white and you add a few white ones, then you start to get some different dimensions in the stars. So a really great painting, to me, when I'm looking at it, is having all these different dimensions. The little bit of pink along with the blue, then you got the green, then you've got something going on here. All these different things come together. Well, it's the same with the stars. You got some blue stars, you got some green stars. I'll probably have a few pink stars. And then you add these white ones, and it really makes it pop. And I'll put more stars, kind of where these like nebula, whatever formations, I'll add more stars around those. And it really kind of makes that pop, because that's, you know, essentially, I guess, what they're formed by, millions of little stars. So I'll add a whole bunch of stars, and now hopefully you can start to see that. So, and this area, you know, boom, add a little more here. So now, hopefully, I think you can see that. So I'm going to keep working on this. I'm just going to keep doing this. I'm going to add a lot of stars. And we'll slow it down and we'll finish it up for you. Alright, so I've got about as many stars as I want to have, and now comes the fun part. What we're going to do is we're going to take the brush we started with, kind of this mop, and we're going to get this black in the bottom here. So I'm just going to start getting it on there. Pretty thick paint. So this is where it really, I don't know, it's kind of my favorite part. So I thought I'd slow it down for everybody. It's also one of the easiest parts of the painting. So kind of the tedious work is done here. And I'll probably add some highlights to this silhouette. Sometimes it's cool to have just a little bit of highlight. Probably add some highlight somewhere around here, just kind of give the effect of this green glow. And yeah, fill in some of the body there. We have to switch brushes real quick here. It's getting pretty tight. All right, I don't want to go any further. Okay. I'm going to take this, no particular brush, but a little bit smaller brush. It's got more of a sharp edge. And I think most of this is dry. I'm probably going to have to take the liner brush out for some of these antlers too. But we'll get some of the bigger areas. Just kind of work my way down. We'll leave the rest for the liner. And I'm just kind of following real carefully. And what's cool about this part is, and one of the reasons why I leave it till last is, a lot of times if you fill in this part too early, at least for me, this is kind of the sloppiest part. This becomes the focus. So you lose focus on imperfections, which is a good thing. So when you fill in this black area, the silhouette, it takes the focus away, which makes other areas that maybe you weren't happy with look better. But the problem with that is if you do it too soon, sure, you might have a painting that you're happy with, but what I've found, the reason why I like to save this is for the, you know, pretty much the last part. So like actually right now I'm done with the sky. So and the reason why I wanted to save this, for the biggest reason, is because if I fill this in, I'll think, oh, the sky looks good enough. But if I wait to fill it in until now, I'll keep looking at the sky. It keeps my focus, my attention on the sky, and it gets me to work the sky a little bit more than I probably typically would if I had filled in the caribou earlier. Just because, you know, and it's merely a mental thing, but it really helps me, you know, wait to fill in the best part of the painting until last. And I know the sky's beautiful, but the focus is the caribou. So if you can just hold off, you'll keep that attention focused on the sky, and you'll probably surprise yourself. You'll add just a little bit more detail and maybe work the blending a little bit more. So anyways, that's just kind of my way in a nutshell of why I like to wait. And it's all mental. If you don't work that way, that's fine, but some people probably don't have to. But it's kind of fun to wait till the end anyways, just to see this come alive. This is my favorite part. Really looking cool now. I'm just filling it in. Solid black for now, and I'll probably add some, again, some highlights. Will kind of wash over the top of this dark color. But for the most part, it's pretty close. Almost there. This has got to be the most tedious part of the whole painting. Fill in the nose. If you guys have questions about this at any point, please ask. I'd love to share my ideas. I love to talk with other artists. There's no secret behind anything that I do other than my love and my passion for it, and that's really what makes my art. There's no trick. You could watch a lot of videos and you're going to see the same thing over and over and over. There's no secret. And anybody that has a secret just doesn't want you to find out how easy it is. That's the reality. But the love that people have for it, a really great artist will have a love that cannot be matched. So, point being, please ask questions. I love when you guys ask questions. I'm happy to share any part of my knowledge about painting with you guys. All right, we're almost there. Slow point. Just about. Wow, really cool. Got his shovel out front. Is it a double shovel? I don't know, I can't see. All right. And this, so the reason why I kind of down in here, I started to fade it dark again, and it actually started to look like land. So I thought it'd be cool just to fade like some real subtle layers, just to kind of give that, you know, when you're way up north on the tundra, you see these big waves of land, and they just go on forever and ever and ever. And I kind of got that effect accidentally, and now I love it. So I'm going to keep working at a little bit of this, work on some highlights, but overall, that's just about it. So I'm going to keep going. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please like and share, and of course subscribe if you love this, and ask questions. I love answering. So hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to finish up this painting, and we'll see you next time.